back to another episode of Two Dudes in a Cage. Today we have another special episode for you, Fighter Spotlight, featuring Barb Ciesnolevicz. I am your host, Charles Clark.
I'm Matt Johnson.
Barb, thanks for joining us. Barb is a pro grappler, a pro fighter. She's a BJJ purple belt. She's a gym owner. She's a coach. She's one of my teammates, and she is super busy. When she's not in the zone and training hard, she has always got a huge smile on her face. Barb, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk to me. It's awesome that you've started this show. I want to support it. I think it's really cool.
Telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Barb, and I've been fighting. My first fight was in 2014, took a layoff, started fighting again in 2017. And after that second fight, I really haven't stopped, on the MMA side of things, but I've been doing jiu-jitsu since 2012. So for a long time. And then more personally, I like hiking and hanging out with my dogs.
So you have been absolutely killing it on the grappling scene lately. I mean, you're just racking up wins all over the place. Do you just want to talk a little bit about those wins and what they mean to you, what tournaments you've won lately, things like that?
Yeah. Grappling, it's always been kind of like a home base for me. So over the past probably year and a half now, I've really dove straight into it. I no longer have a full-time job other than being an athlete and being a gym owner. So I just run the gym and train. So the way my brain works, I am able to focus fully on it. And I think that's my success. I'm literally just training all the time and studying and, drilling and stuff like that. So it also does take being able to travel to these things and compete. So I'm very thankful, to be able to do that with my new way of life instead of hey, I got to take time off work and stuff. No, tournament pops up, we go, or I go. I've gone by myself quite a bit. My most recent one was Nashville Open, which was really cool because that was literally 9 years after I did my first ever tournament as a white belt out in Nashville. So I thought it was really cool to go out there, and then I won via all submissions and no points were scored on me. So it was really, really, really cool.
So you're a pro fighter, and you mentioned a gym owner, and you coach.
Yeah.
How do you manage to handle all of that?
Yeah, honestly, it's easy for me. It was hard for me when I was working 2 and 3 jobs and trying to be a fighter. When I was working for other people because, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and stuff like that. So if my brain's going all over the place, I'm just not as focused. So managing the gym and coaching and kind of being fully immersed in one specific thing is exactly what I've needed. So it's really not that hard for me, especially because, the old saying of if you love what you do, you don't feel like you're at work. And that's exactly my life right now. I really have gone through the ringer as far as crazy jobs and crazy life stuff. And now I'm kind of at this place where I finally feel really content and happy.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps that there's such a great atmosphere at the gym as well. I mean, I've been to I've trained at a couple of gyms myself, and some of them there's attitudes and the competing to be number one. I just haven't felt that at Says MMA, and everybody's so welcoming and helpful, and it's just friendly, and we really do become like a family there. So it just really is you get excited to go to the gym every day. So it's
I think my husband and I, we've both been part of those types of gyms too. I've been part of a lot of different gyms too, and we just kind of want to create something where people are excited to be there and we're all supporting each other towards our goals. And so that means a lot that you feel that way, and I've heard that from others. So it means what we're trying to do is working, and the hard work not going unwarranted. So
absolutely. Yeah. So you're married to Mike. Mike's the head coach at
Yep.
Says MMA. Sorry, everybody probably says your name wrong. I'm sure you're used to it by now. Ciesnolevicz, Cies. Obviously, you two just spent a lot of time together and trained and fell in love. Do you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah. So I had just gone through a divorce from somebody who was extremely like toxic bad. And so like my first experience with being married was not a good one. And then he had the same experience. And so we kind of like we met each other through martial arts, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious. And I think, some people talk about, oh, that's kind of not good. And I'm like, I don't think so, because both of us have the same type of mind, right? Like we understand each other. He understands that I need this sport in my life in order to ground myself. Like he knows that, right? And I know he needs that too. Like he's super obsessive, like with studying, and like he doesn't really train anymore, but like I understand he needs his time to like look over techniques and just kind of like be a part of jujitsu and MMA. So my ex-husband was the opposite of that, where he was like extremely controlling, not letting me train, like, just didn't understand me. And I feel like if you're married to somebody, like that person needs to understand what makes you tick and who you are and support that. And so, yeah, I've been with Mike in total about 5 years. We've been married for 4 of those 5 years. So, and not one point am I like, oh, wow, I can't stand this guy. Like I truly do love Mike, and appreciate everything that he's done for me, like whether that's in our relationship or in MMA and jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, we're just literally best friends living together and being a part of each other's journeys.
It's an amazing story. It really is.
Yeah.
We love animals. I'm a big animal lover myself. So
Yeah.
there's Matt is too. He has quite a few animals. So
Yeah, we do dogs and a couple cats. That's another thing. Mike and I are very similar in that route. Like we both really like animals, and he's always had animals around him, and I've always had animals around me. So that works.
everybody wants to know, how did you get the nickname Outlaw?
Yeah. So basically, my first nickname was given to me in my first fight. It was Crash. So it was because I went out there and just was wild, throwing like just from my hip. Like I won the fight via rear naked choke, but at the time, my coaches were like, "Oh, you're just like crap. Like I don't even know what you are."
Down, so
Yeah. So Outlaw suits me more because my whole life. So my mom was a single mom, and she raised me kind of rough. Like we rode dirt bikes. She put me, I don't know if you heard of mutton busting, where you ride sheep, but literally like as a child, I was in rodeos, like riding on the back of sheep. Like that was my childhood growing up. Like I lived like, in Northern California, but it was a town called Magalia right above Paradise. Paradise is a town that burned down in Northern California. But basically just kind of like country living. I'm kind of against the grain too with a lot of the stuff that I do. I like MMA obviously, and as a female, I think female MMA fighters are all outlaws. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, like we're literally supposed to be in the kitchen cooking, wearing dresses, right? Like that's the normal thing that a woman would do in most people's eyes, right? But like I think all women in MMA are outlaws. I just happen to be a little bit more of one, and so that's why I call myself that.
I like it. That's a great explanation too, for sure. It gives it more meaning. Anybody that hears that name now, there's more feeling behind it.
Speaking of being a woman in MMA, is it hard? Like, obviously, to me, on the outside looking in, women tend to not get as much respect in the fight game as men. Do you have a lot to overcome because of being a woman in this sport?
Yeah, I think so. When I first got into the sport about 9 years ago, it was kind of really taboo. I mean, it was like, wow, there's women fighting. Like, that's weird, right? Like, honestly, back then it was like, who's hotter than the other? And that's
10
who
years
got
ago, for sure. Yeah.
into the big shows. Nowadays, thankfully, we've got um, a lot more skill going on. It's no longer about, hey, this chick's hotter than the other. There are some that are kind of like being built up that way, but it's not as prevalent as it was before. So I think it's even harder though now. Like you have to really grind and you have to have the right coaching staff. You know, in the past, I've had terrible coaches, right, who kind of push me in different directions that aren't correct, as far as like preparation stuff, putting me up against heavyweight men to spar as hard as I can, stuff like that, right? So like obviously my husband's not going to do that. My coaching staff now, like between Kareem, Mike, Smitty, all those coaches that we have, like I feel really safe in the environment that I'm in. But as far as like, yeah, like getting out there and putting myself out there in front of a crowd, it's definitely taxing mentally because, you know, like us as women, we go through a lot of different things. Like we are more emotional, we are more in the moment, we're all this kind of stuff like different than a guy. And so the expectation of us is still the same as a guy though. So if we don't go out and do exactly like what maybe a man thinks we should be doing in a fight, they go, oh, that was boring, or she's not a good fighter, or maybe she should hang it up, or whatever the case may be. But they're not realizing like the anatomy differences of a woman, and also just the mental differences that we go through. So yeah, it's difficult, but honestly, I like the challenge and I like kind of proving people wrong. So that's what keeps me in it.
Speaking of fights, man, you got an upcoming fight. It's your third pro fight, Battle
Mhm.
MMA, June 18th against Helen Lucero. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this matchup. You know, Battle MMA in Colorado Springs is arguably, I think it's going to be the best show in Colorado here soon. I really think it's ran professional. They take care of the fighters. So as far as like me fighting for that show, I'm going to keep fighting for that show as long as they'll have me. I'm just super stoked that they keep giving me great opportunities. Helen Lucero and I were supposed to fight back in 2019. It was supposed to be my pro debut back then. Everything happens for a reason. I was literally working like 2 and 3 jobs at the time on top of trying to train and help Mike run the gym. So I was not ready to go pro yet. Like I was not, but she took the call. Like the reason it didn't happen, she took the call to fight for Invicta. So she's an Invicta FC veteran. She's an LFA veteran. She's a purple belt. So it's it's going to be a really, really good matchup. Like the matchmaker, Jaime Hernandez from Battle, really put this together like to be a great fight for the fans. Like everybody's going to have a good time there watching this fight. We're both super technical. And it's just going to be a good MMA match for sure. And I'm super excited.
So you mentioned purple belt for your opponent as a grappler. You have done jiu-jitsu tournaments. Do you fancy yourself as a grappler?
I do. You know, my opponent, she's kind of like me where she's in a couple boxing fights too. I've done everything. So I've done boxing fights, Muay Thai fights. You know, obviously I've had going on now 10 MMA fights. So we're both, it's similar. So she's taken recently, actually a couple months ago, she did a pro boxing fight. So, you know, as far as like my striking, I'm really, really confident in that. I've worked on that like tirelessly with my husband, Mike, like literally over and over and over again. And also Kareem and Smitty both have helped me too. So I'm really confident no matter where this fight goes. Do I fancy myself as a grappler? Absolutely. I love jujitsu. I literally, my style, I want to mimic Charles Oliveira. I think I've always been a fan of his. And then obviously now he's blown up, but I've been studying this guy for the past couple of years. Like I love his movement with striking and I love how he sets everything up for jiu-jitsu. So it's honestly like what I want my style to be. I want people to be afraid of me on the feet, and I want people to be extremely afraid of me to go to the ground because people won't even go into that guy's guard. And that's to happen in my fights too.
So is he your favorite fighter?
He's my favorite fighter. Yep.
Yeah.
He's my favorite. Yeah.
I like he's one of my favorites too. I really like him. Do you think me and Matt were talking about this? I know he gets hit, gets rocked, and drops a lot. Do you think he kind of overplays that a little bit? Where like, yeah, I'm sure he's getting hit hard, but he purposely kind of falls down just to lure someone in because he knows he can submit him super quick.
Playing
I think
possum.
he does for sure. I think it's kind of his version of rope-a-doping guys. Like I think he really does kind of play into that. I do think because like I said, I've been studying him. So I studied some of his earlier fights. His head movement was not good at all in like 2014, 2015. Like his head was a stationary target. It was just there. And he still had good striking, but it wasn't great. Now, like his evolution over the years, and the reason he's a champion is because he's worked on that. So his micro head movement and everything else is really, really good. And so I think, if I'm being honest, he kind of knows, all right, you can't take punches from Justin Gaethje. Most people cannot one, right? So I do feel that when he got dropped, like he got dropped. I think he got dropped, but he has a chin on him, you know what I mean? So he goes, okay, I'm in shape, come into my guard, or they're going to let me sit here for a second before I have to stand up.
Smart.
So staying on the Oliveira subject, and you have a fight coming up, controversial topic here, but I'll touch it. What do you do to make sure that you're on weight when it comes time to go to the scale?
Yeah, no worries. So I have a nutritionist. His name's Tyler Minton, out of Johnson City, Tennessee. He's been the coach of Daniel Cormier, Max Holloway, Megan Anderson, people that have to cut a considerable amount of weight. So I hired him probably about 2 years ago, because I knew that I had to make the drop down. I was fighting at 145 pounds, walking around at about maximum 155, and those girls all walk around at 165, sometimes 170. So I was starting to feel that, and I was like, you know what, I got to make the drop to bantamweight, but I don't want to do it like the old school, just stop eating, sit in the sauna. Like I had done that early in my career, and it was just not going well. If I follow Tyler's plan to a T, and I'm like hitting everything the way that he's designed it, I'm never going to miss weight. So I just stay super disciplined. I think discipline is the answer to most questions. I think you falter from that, or you say, oh, today I'm going to have a piece of pizza. Like then that turns into, so will I do that tomorrow and the next day, right? Like you have to stay on the disciplined path. And that's like really easy for me to do with the coaching staff that I have.
You're definitely surrounded by a lot of great people who have your best interest out for you.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's key to being successful.
Oh yeah, it is for sure. Like for a while I was trying to do everything myself. And to be fair, like it's because I had kind of an ego issue, like early in my career. Like I thought I knew it all, right? And then I started realizing you don't know it all. You're getting humbled in the cage. You're getting humbled in like some of the jiu-jitsu tournaments that you're doing. Like look in the mirror and figure out what it is that maybe you don't know the most of. And nutrition was one of them. I like had no idea. Like he has me eating like rice and bread and stuff like that. Like what? I thought that I cut all that stuff out, and it's just not true. Like I let professional handle my stuff because they know more than me and they're skilled in that, right?
That's awesome. I definitely nutrition is something I definitely need to get better at. So that's good. You got that on lockdown.
Yeah.
And so you have a win, a grappling win over at Roxanne Modafferi. I know it's something you're really proud of. She's known as one of the nicest, kindest persons in MMA. Do you just want to talk about what that win over her means to you? Because she's, she's fought for the championship. She's a UFC fighter. She's really high caliber. So, that win really says something about you and your abilities. So.
Yeah, so Roxanne, I'd say by far was my favorite match I've ever done. And that's going to be obvious. Like anybody that gets to go up against somebody like her is going to probably say that. But it's for multiple reasons. Like, yes, I got the win. But for me, it was like I overcame a lot mentally. So when I was in there and getting the win, I realized that I'd finally, like, like in video games, like you get to the boss level and you're like, you keep trying it, you're not beating it, you're not beating it. Well, the boss level for me was actually my own mind. I was letting my own mind literally kick my ass every single day, multiple times a day. So then I would get into these competitions and I've already kicked my ass. So now I'm going to go in and try to make sure somebody else doesn't kick my ass, which is hard, right? Because you've already beaten yourself up. So this one, I really actually found that I was sound mentally. I was sound mentally. I was the most prepared physically that I'd ever been as well. I remember like the weeks before that, like Mike and I and one of my training partners, Bo, at lunch class, were literally drilling all these leg positions till we were blue in the face, like over and over and over and over and over. And in the past, that would have annoyed me. I would have been like rolling my eyes, like, I don't want to do this over and over and over again. But like where I was at mentally, I was so focused, so confident, so sure that I didn't really care who the opponent was across from me. I just kind of wanted to go out there and showcase my skills. And so I did just that. And then when it connected and I won, I was in this like state of euphoria. And then it reminded me why I do this is that I have an addictive personality and I'm chasing that feeling, right? So it was incredible. Like I can't describe the feeling of beating her. She is an amazing person, very nice, very kind, very knowledgeable. She's coming to the gym actually next week. So it says a lot about her, right? Where she's like, oh, like we asked her to come out and do the seminar. And it says a lot about her where she's like, yeah, I lost to this person and they're bringing me out. She could have said no. She could have been like, oh no, I don't really like you, right? You beat me. It's not the case. She's like, you know what? I just don't know the leg lock game. Like, and guess what? I'm going to learn so much from her. She knows more than I do. It's just jujitsu. Anybody can get caught. That's an example. Like anybody can get caught. Like, but does she know more than me? Absolutely. I'm going to pick her brain until she says, stop asking me questions because she knows more than I do. Right.
Yeah. Roxanne Modafferi seminar, 528 from 11 to 1, $40 if you're a SES member, $60 if you're not. We'd really love to have you come out. It's going to be a great time. May 28th from 11 to 1. It's going to be great. Roxanne's going to teach us a lot of stuff, so come check it out.
You said getting caught in the leg lock reminds me of Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar, their first fight when he stood up for the guard and left his leg in there.
Ooh, yeah.
Speaking of leg locks and, constantly going over them, do you play chess? Because I've found in grappling and even in MMA, it's like a chess match. You can't just think of move A, you have to think of move A, B, C. And if they do this, you have to do this and then this.
Yeah. I have not taken up chess. I've always wanted to though, because I feel like it would help me. But at the same time, I think in the form of a chess player when I'm playing human chess, which is jujitsu. So I think that way. Like that's how my brain works. Like I think about, like I may be setting up an armbar, but I'm thinking like 5 steps in advance because I'm actually going to sweep you or something like that. Like, so I've always wanted to get involved with it. I've played a little bit, here and there, like recently, well, this was probably a year ago, I did Pan American Games for the first time for jujitsu, and there was big, like giant chess. And my mom and I like played and she's like, man, you got to get better at this for a jujitsu person. You're not very good at this. So I want to get into it because it is very similar, like the thought process.
What advice do you have for, women who are interested in getting an MMA and fighting in general?
Yeah. So go to the place that has consistent women training at it. They're so often like you go to schools and you look around and it's all guys. There's typically a reason for that, right? Like if you come to our school any given night, there's like 5 to 10 women on the mats. That's actually pretty rare, but we pride ourselves in that. because the reason it's important is because you know that they're taking care of their women at the gym that in question, right? And these women want to see other women come in and train because they want to have other women training partners. So when it starts to get rough, also, this is a word of advice, when it starts to get rough, don't just give up. Like, think about it like, hey, like, think this is getting really difficult. This is a hard sport. I'm feeling broken. I'm feeling like maybe I'm not doing anything. Those are usually the moments of breakthrough in jiu-jitsu. So, because I wanted to quit multiple times in the beginning, because I did not have women too much at my first gym. Like, I was getting smashed by giant men in humid Knoxville, Tennessee weather. So, it just, for me, like, I kept showing up even though sometimes I didn't want to. And I think that's kind of like the advice I would give. Just keep showing up. Even if you have to pull your coach aside and say, hey, you know, my body doesn't really feel great today, I just kind of want to drill. You should have a gym that's supportive of that and understands that. And then eventually you're going to start seeing those strides.
Yeah, that's great advice. It's hard at first, it sure is. You're covered in bruises and things like that.
So I noticed on your little banner tag, it says SSGT, which many people don't know is Staff Sergeant in the Air Force, which is the E5. So I'm not going to ask if you were in the Air Force, but I will ask, what did you do while you were in the Air Force? And is that how you got introduced into, the military calls it hand-to-hand combat, which is basically a watered down jujitsu? Is that how you got into it?
So yeah, I'm in the Air National Guard, and I was active duty for 6.5 years. And I actually, jujitsu led me to my military career. So I had no direction. I was dropping out of college. I was hanging with the wrong crowds, getting into trouble, stuff like that. And so when I walked into a jujitsu gym, well, it was an MMA gym, I walked in there and they pretty much said, hey, like, pretty much I was like, I thought I could just fight right off the bat. And they said, no, you're not, you're doing jujitsu. So putting the gi on and doing jujitsu led me to, hey, like, I want to get my life together. Like, I'm now starting to feel this discipline. I'm realizing that the jobs that I'm doing and the apartment that I'm living in with the crazy roommates that I had and everything else is like, this is not the life for me. So that's actually what like led me to the recruiter's office and kind of got me started on that path. And it was definitely the best decision I could have ever made, because without that, I'd have been stuck in Knoxville. Like, who knows what I would have been doing. Like, so it led me to having a great career, I got my degree through the Air Force. Like, everything happens for a reason. And so I'm thankful for my military service.
So you're a purple belt in BJJ. You want to talk about what does that mean to be a purple belt, and what do you think the responsibilities of being a purple belt in the gym are?
Purple belt's my favorite belt forever. I want to just stay here. I don't want to go further. I'm just kidding. I do obviously want my black belt, but I really enjoy purple belt because like when I got it, it's like almost as soon as I got it, people were asking me questions like, hey, when I put my hand here, like, what should I do? Right. So I started feeling that pressure right off the bat when I got it, because I was one of, if not the only purple belt in our gym at the time. So being a purple belt is just that. Like, can you teach a class? Can you coach people? Can you help people? Can you motivate people? Like, you're literally the person that people are looking up to, especially if there's not a lot of high belts at your gym. So yeah, like I feel that pressure, but I enjoy it. I do feel like I have to be an example for people a lot, and I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I also like to show them that I'm human. Like, hey, like, I may lose a couple, I may win a couple, but this is how I handle that, and I'm going to coach to that. So yeah, like, there's a lot of responsibility to it, but it's also really fun because at purple belt, you should pretty much have a game established. And I feel like my game just keeps evolving over and over again, and I'm only getting better thanks to my coaches.
Definitely think, being a purple belt means a lot, and a lot of people look up to you in the gym, and I do personally. Definitely want to ask lots of in-depth questions, especially being a lower ranked belt. you know Plus, also, you kind of got a bullseye on your back too. People want to be like, can I submit the purple belt, and want to
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah, I think honestly that happens more like right when you get promoted. I have like super competitive roles with people where I can tell like they definitely want to make sure that they're trying to get me. But it's nothing at this point where I'm like, I don't roll with people like that anyways. And we don't really have a lot of that at our gym, thankfully.
Right.
But yeah, like it's all friendly competition at this point.
I noticed your nail, at least from my screen, your nails match your hoodie color. So what is your favorite color?
This is interesting. Like, my favorite color is actually purple. But this is my second favorite color, which is teal. And this was unintentional. I just got my nails done yesterday, and then I wore my purple hoodie yesterday during a workout. So I was like, that's not good. So I this one was clean.
It looks great.
Thank you.
Back to the jujitsu, or the purple belt grappling. What's your favorite move? Because I know Charles is the armbar because he's got me in that a few times. So,
Oh
what's
yeah.
your-
Yeah. I have a lot of moves that I really, really love. You know, my favorite move right now probably is the Darce. It's close to be like a heel hook. I just think like leg locks are really fun, and if you're good at them, you can neutralize just about anybody. So that's where I like.
like Dylan Dennis when he tried getting the one guy in the toe hold in a Bellator fight?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't recommend being super one-sided with your jiu-jitsu and only doing leg locks. I've seen a lot of people, I won't name names or anything, but I've seen some people that are just leg lockers, and it doesn't usually go well.
Yeah,
You don't have
if you
else
don't
to,
get it, you end up losing the position, and
yeah,
You
exactly.
leave yourself open to ground and pound too.
Yeah, you have to really you have to be well-rounded. Like you have to realize like, hey, I got to bail on this and use it as a sweep and get up, and so, but that's only people who are put together grapplers do that though. So
So what do you typically eat on fight day?
fight day, I keep it pretty controlled. Like as much as you want to go out and just eat a huge burger the day of the fight, that's not a good idea. So I have a really good breakfast. I'll have like some toast, eggs, sausage, like potatoes, nice good carbs, some fruit, which is like a fast carb. Then I'll have usually like a sandwich at lunch, and then I kind of just eat dried fruit and stuff like that up into the fight. So I just keep it really clean and nice, good carbs and stuff like that before the fight. And then after the fight's a whole different story.
Pig out time, huh? What do you
Yes.
eat after the fight then?
I
Thing?
love, yeah, I love Mexican food. I love it so much that like we go there. Usually we go to a place called Vaqueros in Colorado Springs. I love it. But I think my go-to like really sloppy bad food is pizza. Like pizza is just, oh man, pizza with things. And yeah, I can't, I love it.
What's your favorite pizza place in the Springs?
In the Springs, I like Perry's a lot, which is on Powers. Um, I like Slice 420 as well, which is close to our old gym. But yeah, like I'm really not that picky with pizza, to be fair. Like,
Right. Have you been to Duca's?
not yet.
Oh, I like Duca's pizza. They're good.
I'll have to go there then after my fight.
So what do you think about dirty fighters, like people who tend to grab the cage or grab your gloves or eye poke you, or maybe even a groin kick for men's fight? Some people, they know they can kind of push the limits a little bit and cheat a little bit until that point before the point gets taken away. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think it's clearly cheating, right? But I feel like if we're coming down to it and I'm sitting here blaming somebody for grabbing my glove or something stupid, like, then maybe I'm not doing enough to really decisively win the fight. Eye pokes are a totally different story. You can blind somebody with that. So that's totally, in my opinion, like, I am not okay with that at all. Female or male groin strikes, or they suck. Like, it still hurts as a female to get kicked in the groin. So yeah, like those kind of things, if we're talking like things causing injury and things causing, like, I feel like it's totally uncalled for. And especially at the professional level, you should kind of have it locked in. Like when, the Aljamain Sterling fight, right? Like he got kneed being down and people were talking crap about him. I'm like, listen, this is the highest level professional fight you can even talk about. Like, this is the UFC championship. At this point, you should know not to soccer kick somebody or knee somebody to the head when they're a downed opponent. Like, it's pretty, so locking in the rules and understanding what you're doing is important. And most people that are fighting aren't just, like, in my opinion, we're kind of a little crazy. You got to be, because this is not a normal sport, right? So yeah, most of us are going to go, no, I'm still going to fight. It's like, but in my opinion, like, I think it's up to the coaches at that point to be like, hey, no, or the doctor or whatever the case may be, like, kind of step in.
So as a gym owner, and do you coach other fighters as well?
Yeah, so I corner folks that want me in their corner. I've cornered Darian. He was just on your show. I've cornered Devon. I've cornered a handful of our amateurs. Really, it just comes down to if they want my advice, if they want me around them, if they want me in there, then I'll be in there for them. A lot of times, people have said that I'm pretty calm. Until I'm not. Like, I cornered a couple times where I was like, guys are just not even trying. Like, I've had a couple guys when they're not trying, I get a little elevated. I'm like, I've seen you train. What are you doing? And I will straight up, like, be yelling. But for the most part, I'm pretty calm energy. And I think that's why some people like me in their corner.
So I asked that because one thing, and I mean, it happens in boxing as well, but mostly in MMA, like Brian Ortega, shouldn't have went out in the 5th round. Korean Zombie in his last fight. Yeah. Do you think coaches should be more apt to throwing in the white towel, dealing with the consequences of the fighter later, or do you think they should just let the fighter go on their shield?
It's a tough question, right? I think the fighter is really the only one that truly knows what their goals are, as far as, like, brain health. But the coaches see these people every single day. If it was me, I've already taken a lot of head trauma in my fights. And so I would hope that my husband and my other coaches do throw the towel, because I will continue to try to fight until I'm paralyzed. So I would hope that they step in and go, this is ridiculous. You're not doing anything to defend yourself. You're just taking shots. If you saw, like, Lauren Murphy versus Valentina Shevchenko, it was starting to get a little crazy. Or like Felicia Spencer versus Nunes. It's like, man, what a war. But now Felicia Spencer doesn't fight anymore. You know what I mean? Right. So longevity wise, like, I would hope my coaches step in if something like that's going down, because I don't have the pride enough to quit. Right. So
protect your career.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if I've got guys that I'm cornering and I know, and it's only for like a regional level show or something like that. And, like, especially my amateurs, like, we're not going, if you're not doing anything and you're just continuously taking head trauma and you're just standing there and your face is busted up and you're literally, the ref's weird and not calling the fight. Usually amateur fights, they're going to call the fight. But if the ref's just being, like, looking off in the distance and not paying attention, then, it's up to us to kind of make that determination.
Who do you think the best women's fighter is? The women MMA fighter is?
Valentina Shevchenko. Yeah. She's the best. I know, like, people have said Nunes is the best in the past, and, like, there's nobody that is better than Valentina Shevchenko pound for pound. There just isn't. She's a complete martial artist. There's nobody that can handle her at 125 pounds. And arguably she beat Nunes. So that's up for determination. But
Which
Nunes is
fight?
the split decision loss. I think
yeah, I'll give you that one.
really like back and like I don't know, and Shevchenko is like a lot smaller than her. Nunes cuts a lot of weight to make 135, and I do feel like Shevchenko is a better martial artist than Nunes. Nunes has heavy hands. She's got great jiu-jitsu as well, but I think if we're talking who's a better martial artist, it's going to be Shevchenko.
Awesome. Yeah, she's definitely in a league of her own, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
She reminds me of DJ, Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah. She's just really well-rounded. I mean, she's really good at striking, and people really like underestimate her ground game too.
What do you think of the Cain Velasquez situation?
Yeah. Wow. What a hard thing to be involved with in general, right? Like think about my close family member being assaulted like that, a child, right? Like he saw red, right? He saw red and he went and handled the law on his own. And unfortunately, okay, like my name is outlaw, right? Unfortunately, we live in a country where we can't handle the law on our own, and I want him freed from whatever prison he's in immediately. I feel like he did the right thing. Unfortunately, somebody else that was not involved got hurt in the process. So that's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like maybe he should have thought about it for a second so that calculated. But in my opinion, like you hurt a kid, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can't blame him. I probably would have reacted the same way, honestly, especially if it was my kid. It's such a tough thing to do, but then like you said, you also can't take the law in your own hands, and he it up somebody else. It's just such a,
you just can't. It sucks because you're like, I think in his head he probably thought, well, this is going to go to court and it's going to take forever, and this guy's not justice he deserves, because a lot of times that happens. Like people just don't get handed the justice they deserve, right? And maybe they'll walk free or maybe something else, and he was concerned that nothing was going to happen to this guy. So I feel for him, I really do.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation. My heart goes out to him as well. This next question's a little bit controversial. Hopefully don't raise too many eyebrows. Follow on Fox. She's a transgender athlete. A lot of people think that transgender athletes, when you're a man and you converted to a woman, I'm sorry, I don't know the proper terminology. So if I offend you, please don't get upset at me, because I'm just uneducated about it.
That's totally fine.
But you could potentially have to fight one of these athletes someday. What do you think about Fallen Fox and transgender athletes competing in mixed martial arts?
I think women's sports in general, it's under fire right now. MMA aside, anything, and this is a big topic in women's sports in general. Yeah. Just recently saw an article where a professional skateboarder, she has worked 11 years to get to where she's at, and she lost out on an astronomical amount of money because of this issue. She took second to somebody who identifies as a female and was born a man. And unfortunately, I think she lost out on like $15,000. So if we think about how long it's taken women in general to climb that ladder, break the ceilings, and be able to get paid for athletics, I just feel like I'm totally neutral about this, but I do support people going after their goals. So I think there should be a trans league. I think transgender individuals should fight other transgender individuals. Thankfully, with my sport, it's an individual sport, and I can sign on the dotted line on whoever I want to fight when I want to fight them. And so as far as like for myself and my personal, I will not fight a transgender athlete. It's an unfair advantage. It's not something I want to put myself in front of. And I know some people will do that because maybe they really trust in their skill and their athleticism and stuff like that. But as far as like the safety of myself and kind of what I stand for with supporting women's sports, I would not sign on that line.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough decision to make, but yeah, I think that's definitely a great idea that there should be a league specifically for them. That's an
Yeah.
awesome idea, just to make things fair.
Yeah, I think so too.
And by no means that doesn't mean we don't support you, and everybody has the ability to live life however they see fit, and it's no one else's opinion on what you should do with your life. And if that's what you think is best for your life, I think we're definitely fully support that and encourage you to live how you choose to live, for sure.
In the words of Rick, the hormone monster from Big Mouth on Netflix, do you, baby?
It's my, like, do you know what I mean? And if there's enough athletes out there that identify as trans, and I feel like they should all compete against each other, I feel like that's just like, that's correct and that's right and that's just.
Yeah, and it's definitely becoming more popular too. So I think eventually someday we could see something like that. So
right.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's a great stance for sure.
Jake Paul, Disney Channel, YouTube, now sports. What's your take on it's every day, bro?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the guy is smart. And I mean, some people are like, man, what do you mean? Yeah, he's smart. He's making money. People are buying into his stuff. They're buying into his antics. They're buying his pay-per-views because they want to see him fight these washed up UFC fighters that'll take the fight because they're also getting paid through it. So it's kind of like he's kind of doing the sport like a favor, because these guys are all like, oh, well, I'm not fighting in the UFC anymore. I'm going to fight this guy, right? Like, I'm going to start talking trash to him. And then it brings opportunities to them to make money. He's also shed light on certain organizations that may not be paying their athletes as well as they could be. So like, as much as he's obnoxious and stuff, I feel like he's actually really good for the sport.
Yeah, definitely. He brings a lot of eyes to the sport. Like Matt's kids definitely love him, and they want to watch his fights, and they might not even care about MMA or boxing, but they like Jake Paul because it Disney or whatever, so they want to watch him. And he's bringing more of a fan base, and fighter pay. So even though he can be kind of a cocky dick sometimes, he's doing some good for sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
My youngest wore his Jake Paul shirt yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he's popular and he markets himself well, so
yeah
and he's got drive. He did it right. Like, he's actually trying to be good at it and not just go in for a paycheck.
No, I agree. Like, people underestimate him. He's a good boxer. He's big. He's not just somebody that never has touched a boxing glove in his life.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good in some of the training videos I've seen of him. I'm definitely like, okay, he can hit. Yeah. So you used to train out of Tennessee. So did I. I lived in Tennessee for like 15 years. That's where my son lives. I got a special place on my heart for Tennessee fighters. I always love to give special shout outs to any fighters from Tennessee. We even train with some of the same people. I think it's cool. We kind of have a little bit of connection, with all the people we train with, and you fighting out of Tennessee. Do you just want to talk about some of the people you train with in Knoxville and how you started up and where you began your martial arts?
Yeah. So I was 19 when I first walked into Knoxville Martial Arts Academy. And that's where Rafael Oliveira was training at the time, who was in the UFC. And then Vince St. Preux was in Strike Force at the time. So you know, training there, it was really like, obviously Tennessee is super humid. So, you know, I had no martial arts background when I first walked in there. And I think I mentioned earlier in the show, like I walked in and I was like, I'm going to fight now. And they were like, absolutely not. You're going to literally put this $75 judo gi on and do jujitsu. And the judo gis are like really thick. So, so I started in the gi there because that's what they told me to do. I'm thankful for that. And we kind of have the same principle at our gym where, you know, we get people come in and they want to just fight right off the bat. And we always tell them you should start in jujitsu. So very similar with that. You know, my first jujitsu coach was Rafael Oliveira. And, you know, he's really, really good at jujitsu. I remember his practices were really hard. He's kind of like a team loyalist too, just kind of like how we are. So I always think back to like my white belt days there, and I appreciate it because it kind of like grounded me in what I feel like jujitsu should be. And we're the same thing here, like where we're all about the team. We invest in each other, everybody invests back. And it's kind of this revolving door of positivity. So yeah, like I didn't really train anywhere else while I was in Knoxville. Recently, whenever I go home to visit my mom, which shout out to her, she's like 48 years old and she's going to take her first boxing fight soon.
Awesome.
Like she lost, I think, I don't know, like 60 to 70 pounds boxing. And she trains out of Eppolito's boxing gym. So I'm really excited for her. I never thought she'd get in the ring and fight, but that's what she wants to do it. It's on her bucket list. And she's been training hard for almost 2 years now. So I trained at Knoxville Martial Arts Academy, Eppolito's boxing gym, and then the best jiu-jitsu school in Knoxville is actually Lucas Lepre, Knoxville, ran by Laban Pro. So I've trained with them too.
Nice. That's awesome. That's so amazing that your mom is stepping in the cage. I bet that just makes you feel so good inside that your career has inspired her to fight. Like, you know, you through fighting is touching all these people around you in so many ways. And that's gotta be feel so good.
Yeah, it's really cool. My whole family boxes now. So, you know, I tried to get them into jujitsu and they just didn't really like pick up on it. So when I went to visit a couple years ago, I said, hey, you know what? Like, I'm going to do this boxing lesson with Frank over here. I feel like you will really like this. It's not like jujitsu. I feel like this is more your speed. And then ever since she tried it, she fell in love with it. And they're actually now really good family friends of ours. And like, it just kind of spiraled, and I'm pretty happy with how it's all turned out.
Have you ever been in a street fight?
Oh, no. I've never actually been in any type of like altercation like that. I've had to use jujitsu for self-defense though. So somebody broke into my apartment when I lived with like a crazy girl when I was young. I was 19 and I lived with like a 32-year-old, and she told somebody where we lived after a really crazy night. Like she was drinking at some club and she gave a guy our address, and at the like working super early. So I had to be up at like 4 a.m. and it was 2 a.m. and her dog starts barking super crazy and loud. And so I go out to check. She's passed out on the floor, and then the door starts opening. So she had left the door unlocked and everything. And this guy comes walking through, and I'll never forget it. He goes, I'm here to get her. And I said, no, you're not. And I think if I didn't have jujitsu, I would have like, first of all, never said that. I would have probably just like tried to bolt. But yeah, he was like, oh yeah, I'm getting her. And so then he kind of like walked by me, but I actually ended up doing like an arm drag technique, and I pulled him by me, and just like, I think that confidence that he sensed from me, he was like, oh, I got to get out of here.
Right.
So he ended up like, I said, you better get the F out of here. And so he started sprinting because I was like, I'm going to call the cops. And so he sprinted out of there. But that's like the only like real life altercation that I've had to like fight.
That's a great story though. I love it for sure. It's so cool.
Yeah. you never want to have to use it, but I'm thankful that it kind of like was muscle memory.
What do you think about bare knuckle fighting? It's becoming extremely popular. There's a lot of bare knuckle leagues. There's 3 or 4 of them. Even bare knuckle MMA leagues popping up. What do you think about bare knuckle fights? Potentially, maybe you doing one.
Yeah. Honestly, like they're paying well. They're paying really well, and they have a lot of following and everything else. And so like, I'm not going to knock that. Like, is that something that like, I'm like super like, oh, sign me up for that? Yeah, probably not. Right. Like not right now, because I like using jujitsu in my fights. So I don't, I'm also really big on brain health. So I think if you just go that route and you're just slugging it out without any gloves on, and I feel like that's not a good longevity route, but I do feel like, hey, like go where the money's calling you, right? Like if the money's great and it's cool and great, then it's part of martial arts. So it's not something that I would never do, but it's sometimes like initially I was like, I would never do that. But like if the money's right and the opponent's like Paige Van Zant or something, I might do it.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a great answer.
How do you stay healthy and like after camp? Do you stay fit, or do you Patty Pimblay it?
Oh yeah.
How do you recover?
No, so I'm never like, so camp is like weird for me because I train year round. So I'm always training. With that being said, it is hard on your body. So I'm thankful that, my trainer, like my strength and conditioning coach from D1 Colorado Springs, her name's Sarah. She's got me doing like 10 to 15 minutes of mobility before I even start my workouts. Then my workout happens. Then after my workout, I'm doing 10 minutes of stretching. This is just routine. Like I'm constantly maintaining my body. And then my sponsor, I recently picked up a cryotherapy sponsor called Goosebumps, and it's in Colorado Springs. And I was going to them regularly without being sponsored, just because like it really, really takes away the pain. Like it's 3 minutes in a chamber, but I come out of there and I don't have any pain at all. And then also like, if I have little things here and there, like maybe I threw a kick and somebody checked it, or, I got a bruise on my knee or my back or whatever the case may be, like they have spot treatments. So they can literally take this gun and do like spot treatments. More commonly, usually when we're wrestling and stuff, people will grab the back of the head and like snap you down a lot and you get kind of sore. And yeah, like I use them regularly. So I do that. And then my nutrition.
Hey, that's great. Sounds like you've got it all tuned in really well.
Yeah, finally. Before I used to just not have it tuned in, but yeah, recently over the past couple of years, we've dialed it in.
Who are all your sponsors you want to thank that make your dream possible?
Yeah, so Vigilant Tiger Security, it's owned by our gym members, Donnie and Natalie Hamilton. They provide personal security, so thankful for that. Jesse Campbell Real Estate. So he's actually who we sold our home through and bought our new home with. So hit him up. He's really great realtor. Main Event Apparel. So they provide my fight shorts and everything, my rash guards for my competitions. So they have a lot of fan gear they've also created for me. So if you hit up Main Event Apparel, you can get fan shirts for me. And then Dane Care, he's a great guy. He saw me box up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then he's supported Darian as well. So he's not a business, but he's a person who's decided to sponsor me because he believes in my career, and I really appreciate him and his family. Goosebumps Cryotherapy. Again, I just talked about them, but they're on Vickers and Academy, and they're just amazing people, great family that runs that business. Fast Fit Foods just recently picked me up as a sponsored athlete. So the food there is amazing. Like I cannot get over how good the food is there, and it helps me stay on track with my macros. So I really appreciate that too. Mod Finishes, which is another member-owned business. So they work on like custom fabrications for vehicles, wraps, paintless dent repair and stuff like that. So, I mean, really just, I have a lot of great people in my corner helping me on this journey.
This has been such a great interview. I want to thank you again for being on our show. We got to know you better as well. The fans get to know you better. I think it's been great all around. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thanks.